guys, I'm Gary Joseph Potter Jr. and I wanted to make a video lesson that covers some basic scale concepts for soloing over a major key chord progression. Check it out. One of the things that come up quite often in my online lessons is how to get started soloing over chord progressions. And what I've done for this example is just used a backing track that covers C, G, A minor, and then F. And there's a second section that goes to E minor, F, A minor, and G. So now the first question that would come up is, what key or keys is this chord progression in? And the thing that you're going to want to look at first is what notes make up each chord. And if you're not familiar with this, each chord is built off of the root, the third, and the fifth of its corresponding major scale. So if we look at C, and we think of that as the key of C, we would say that the 8 notes in a C major scale are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C again would be the octave. And if you take the first note of that scale, which is C, the third note of that scale, which is E, and the fifth note of that scale, which is G, you'd have the 3 notes that make up a C major chord. So you can see, you got C, E, open G, C again on the second string, and then E. So those are the 3 notes that make that chord. Now, if we go on to a G chord, and we take this same basic concept, we say, okay, well, pretend for a second that we're in the key of G. The notes in the G major scale are G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. We can build those 3 notes off of that major scale. So it would be G is the root, B is the third, and then D is the fifth. Now, I'm not saying that this chord progression is in the key of G, but when you build chords, you want to analyze them as if you're in that key to help you to figure out what the first note is, what the third note is, and what the fifth note is. And this is what we need to do to put these chord progressions together. And our goal is to try to make as many chords fit into one key as possible. So if we go through all 4 chords, the next one being A minor and then the fourth one being F, the A minor chord, we'd have to analyze it as if we're in the key of A, because it's an A chord. And in the key of A, we have an A, a B, a C sharp, a D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A. So now here's the thing. For a minor chord, we have this lowered note that makes it minor. So right off the bat, we have a C natural in that chord, which is the 3rd degree of A minor. We also have an E, which is the 5th degree. So the 3 notes in an A minor chord would be A, C, and E. So now you can see that that doesn't fit in an A major scale, because an A major scale has a C sharp in it. It also has an F sharp and a G sharp. And if we're looking at the overall chord progression, we have a C chord and a G chord. So the A major scale doesn't line up. But we'll go back to that in a second. If we look at the F chord here, we have F, A, and C. Same deal, if we take an F major scale, we get root, 3rd, and 5th. F major scale would be F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, and F. And that would give us our F, A, and C. So what we're trying to do is take these 4 chords, like I said, and put them in the same key. Is there a scale where all 4 chords and the notes in each one of those chords all fit into the same key? If we look again at the C, E, and the G, then we look at G, G, B, and D. If we look at A minor, A, C, and E, and then the F is F, A, and C. So right off the bat, all four of those chords contain notes that are all natural notes. So if I was to look at this chord progression or be presented to this chord progression to solo over, that would be something that would ring in my head right away. You have all natural notes in all 4 of those chords. So really this chord progression really only fits in one key, which is the key of C major, obviously. And if we analyze those 4 chords now based off of that information, you can see that the first chord is the 1 chord in the key of C. And then when we go to G, if you count up the C major scale, you'd have C, D, E, F, G. That'd be the 5th chord in the key of C. It's the 5th note in order of the scale, and it's also the 5th chord. And then we have A minor, which is the 6th chord, which the 6th chord in every major key is always minor. That's something for later. And then the 4 chord, which is F, is always major as well. So we can see here, based off of the 4 chords and the notes in each one of these chords, that we are in the key of C. And I determined this by analyzing all 4 chords, and then analyzing the notes in all 4 chords, and then trying to make all 4 of those chords fit into one key. So, just to reiterate, obviously the chord progression can't fit into the key of G, because if you look at a G major scale, we have G, A, B, C, D, E, and F sharp, and the 4th chord is an F, so that's not going to work. And then if we went to the key of A, I mean, you know, the chord being A minor is kind of a big giveaway there, but the A major scale has an F sharp, a C sharp, and a G sharp in it. All 3 of those notes don't work in this chord progression. And the same with F. There's no B flat anywhere in any of these chords, and of course the G major chord has a B natural in it. So I'm going kind of fast here, and I don't want to bore you with tons of technical stuff, but these are the basic ideas of how you would figure out what scale or scales that you could play over any chord progression, major key, minor key, whatever. And now that we've established that this chord progression is in the key of C, what you can do is begin to investigate on the guitar where you can find scale patterns that are in the key of C. What I like to do is I like to break up the major scales based off of 7 patterns, because there's 7 notes in the scale. And if you were to just start on the note C, now I got there just by going low E string, E, F, G, A, B, and C. If you build the C major scale based off of that note, you would get C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. And of course we can do this scale in 2 octaves, which would give us D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. There's 2 more notes that we can fit in this position, which is D and E as well. But this is a really common scale pattern that can be played anywhere on the guitar. And as you progress as a guitarist, you can connect these scale patterns with the music theory aspect of being able to label and find all of the notes in each major key, which takes a ton of work and a ton of time. What I always do in my lessons is I have students work on the theory part of it sort of separate as the scale pattern part of it. So then that way, as you're learning the scale patterns, your technique and your overall ability to navigate the fretboard improves, as well as when you're separately working on the theory part of it, as you get more comfortable with that, you can plug the 2 in together to make them work together. But this is what I would consider the home pattern for the C major scale. Now, of course, we can play this scale in 7 different positions, 7 different patterns based off of every note in that scale. So if I moved up to D, for example, and I start a C major scale starting on D, that would be on the 10th fret, and I'm just playing the same scale. It gives me a completely different fingering because it's in a different spot on the neck, but you would get D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, if you want to slide up, but G's not in that position up there. That would be pattern 3, which is the same idea, just starting on E. So there's E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then this just continues on. We can move on to the 4th pattern, which you could play down here on F, or up here on F as well. So that's F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Then pattern 5, which starts on G in this case. So in other words, you are going to want to eventually learn as many of these patterns as you can stand. It's a ton of work. It takes a lot of time. A lot of people say, oh, why do you want to learn all those patterns? It takes too long, and you end up just playing in a box anyway. But my belief is that if you learn all those patterns, you master those patterns, you can move anywhere on the neck, whether it's in a diagonal fashion or a linear fashion or just in the box, up and down. There's tons of possibilities to get you to really understand where you are all the time when you're playing. I find that to be the most helpful thing. And another scale that you can play in any major key would also be the major pentatonic scale. And in this case, what we would be doing is we're taking a major scale and we're taking out 2 notes. The difference between a major scale and a pentatonic scale is that a major scale has 7 notes in it and a pentatonic scale has 5 notes in it. So if we looked at again C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, if you took out the 4th degree and in relationship to C now, if you take out the 4th degree and the 7th degree, you would get a major pentatonic scale, which would be C, D, E, G. Now I'm skipping over F because the 4th degree is the note we'd want to skip. And then we'd go to A, which is the 6th, we'd skip over B and go to C. And you can hear the sound there. Now really the only difference between pentatonic and major are just those 2 notes. We're taking out the 4th and the 7th when you're in a major key like this. Now again, because there's 5 notes in the scale, there's 5 of these patterns that you can play across the neck. So I call this pattern 3 because I base pentatonic everything off of, I base all the pentatonic scales off of minor because it's easier to keep track of them in my head. But that's a C major pentatonic scale starting on C, which is also the same thing as A minor pentatonic starting on C. That's the whole idea of relative minor and relative major. That's for another lesson. We're looking at this as major keys right now. But if I go up to D, which is the 2nd note in a C major pentatonic scale, you get a pentatonic scale that starts from D. And then E, a major pentatonic scale that would start from G, and then a major pentatonic scale that would start on A. This is the shape that we as guitar players are most comfortable with and that we kind of learn first in our guitar lessons. That's that home pattern that we know. If you're not familiar with these patterns and you feel like you need to work on those, we have exercises for every major scale pattern and every pentatonic scale pattern in 12 keys, as well as hundreds of other exercises to help you to better learn these patterns and be able to play them in any key on the fretboard. But those are the 5 pentatonic scales that would work in the key of C major. And in the little improvised example that I did at the beginning of the video, what I was trying to do is demonstrate the difference, the sound difference between just major scale patterns and sort of in-the-box linear type playing going up and down the scale. I'm kind of mixing different concepts as far as making this, the patterns 3 notes per string, or just playing them pentatonic. But you can hear the pentatonic scales are really useful in a major key tonality. And that could be mixed with the major scale pattern. So you can see I slipped between the pentatonic pattern that's in this position and then also the major scale pattern in this position as well. So this is the basic idea to soloing in a major key chord progression. Now, of course, all of these patterns can be transposed to any major key, which just really in turn means that the notes would change, but the shapes stay the same. They would basically change position on the fretboard. So, say for example, if we were to move to the key of G, then this shape that we're doing starting on C, we can move down here and play this from G. Or if we wanted to do this in the key of A, there's an A major scale. There's a B major scale. There's a D major scale. And so on and so forth. So as each individual pattern moves, of course, the other patterns that are based around that home shape, if you will also move accordingly. And what I think is a really good way to get started with this stuff is to associate really just 4 patterns, meaning a major scale pattern, a major pentatonic scale pattern, and then eventually when you move on to minor keys, you'd want a minor scale pattern and a minor pentatonic pattern. So in this example, like if I went to the relative minor, which is A minor, I would go here and I would do minor pentatonic, it's the shape we all know, and then of course an A minor scale, but it's really a C major scale, starting on A. So this is that idea of relative minor and major, where if you're in the key of C, the key of C also shares the same notes as the key of A minor. And this is something that works across the board. So if you're in the key of G, for example, the relative minor is E minor. If you were in the key of A, for example, the relative minor is F sharp minor. It's always a sixth away. But that only makes sense if you understand how to build the major scale intervals. And if you can build the intervals to make a major scale, then you can also build the chord progression, or the chords, to play the root, third, and fifth, to understand what all the notes are in each minor and major chord. So that's all based off of understanding this one basic pattern, which is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And I skipped this in the beginning, but that, if you don't know the formula for a major scale, it's whole step, and then half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. That's really the formula that makes all contemporary music that we hear, play, and everything. It's that one pattern that is the basis of everything else. So it's an important one to learn for sure. So head over to the site, check out all the lessons that we have that will help you to learn these shapes and these patterns, and we have a ton of backing tracks there, and just so much useful material for you to practice along with to help you improve your playing and help you get a better understanding of how to navigate the neck. So then, as you get better at that, then you'll be able to plug these concepts in to be able to use them over chord progressions. If you enjoyed this lesson, click on the link that's right below this video, and that will take you over to PracticeTheGuitar.com, and there we have tons of exercises that you can practice along with to help you to learn all of your major and minor scales across the neck, pentatonic scales, as well as chord progressions, technique exercises, as well as alternate picking, legato, a whole bunch of different things that you can practice along with, all designed to help you to improve your playing. Go check it out.